Good morning, everybody. You know what day it is? Hump Day! Mike. They love it when I do that in my office. But you know what? It's my office, so I get to do that. One of my favorite recent Tony, Tim, how many favorite Tonyisms do you have? Well, that's a good question. But one of the more recent ones that caught my ear the first time he said it, there are no victims, only volunteers. Kind of a harsh statement, right? It kind of hits you over the head like a sledgehammer. There are no victims, only volunteers. Well, of course there are victims. What he's saying about that is we can't control the event, but we can always control our response to the event. And that's the distinction that he's making with that phrase. So sure, there are victims. Of course, there are victims of crime and victims of deception and all of these types of things. You can be a victim of all kinds of stuff, but whether or not you live as a victim is your choice. Flip the coin, and you can look at it this way. Happiness is really a decision. Think about when we are going to be happy. What happens? Well, you have in your head a series of things that need to happen. And when those series of things happen, then you decide that you're going to be happy. You set up the ground rules as to when that happens. If nobody else does that. Now, if you let somebody else do that, they can set up the ground rules for you, but only because you let them. So if somebody tells you, well, you shouldn't be happy in this situation, you should only be happy when X, Y, and Z happens, well, then that's your choice as to whether or not you follow that rule. But at the end of the day, we're the ones that really determine when we're going to be happy, when we're going to be sad. We can react, our bodies can react to a given event. Obviously, there can be a stimulus, there can be something that happens and we can react. But after that initial reaction, the choice is really ours. Groucho Marx, who if you've never seen him before or never heard of him, the Marx Brothers were an incredibly famous Hollywood film group in the 1930s, 40s, 50s, 60s. And Groucho Marx ended up having a very popular TV show. He was a huge star in his day. And he said that every morning he would get up and he would look in the mirror and he would say to himself, today I have a choice. I can choose to be happy or I can choose to be not happy. It is my choice as to which one I do, and today I'm going to choose to be happy. So no matter what was going on in his life, he made that choice. And in fact, he was a big star, but did everything in his life go perfectly? Of course not. Things don't go perfectly in anybody's life. That's what we were talking about yesterday. But as you are going along and dealing with your problems and dealing with all of these things, whether or not you're in a good mood is entirely up to you. Whether or not you're going to decide, okay, I'm only going to be happy when these 39 things happen perfectly and I'm the king of the earth, then I'm going to choose to allow myself to be happy. Your choice. Or you can say, have you ever heard somebody say, any day above ground is a good day? Now, you might think, well, but that person doesn't have motivation. In fact, we found the opposite, that people who choose to be happy on a regular basis are actually more motivated than people who don't. And here's what's more important, they motivate the people around them a lot more. I mean, think about, who do you want to be around? Do you want to be around somebody that's in a good mood and moving forward and is progressive? Or do you want to be around somebody that's negative all the time? And I mean, how hard is it to be a critic, right? It's the easiest thing in the world. There's two ways to get the tallest building in town. Build the tallest building or burn everybody else's to the ground. Most people choose to burn everybody else's to the ground because that's easy. Building the tallest building is hard. But the people that really do that really build that tallest building, they inspire others and everybody wants to be around them. I mean, did everybody want to hang around Steve Jobs because of his glowing personality? No, he was a tyrant. But they all wanted to be around him. Why? Because they knew that he was doing something great and they wanted to be part of it. So, as you head into today and every day, whether or not you're happy is your choice. You can either be a victim, being a volunteer, or you can decide not to be a victim. And that doesn't mean that something bad doesn't happen to you, but that means it's your choice as to how you respond to that particular thing. And let's face it, most of the greatest successes, as we talked about yesterday, that we celebrate come out of something really bad that happened. and the person or people that happened to decide, you know what, I'm not going to be a victim with this. I'm not going to volunteer for that outcome. I'm going to figure out what's good in this, and I'm going to turn this around and make it something that at least there can be a lesson for others, or that I can help others. Mothers Against Drunk Driving started because a stay-at-home mom lost her daughter to a drunk driver. She had no resources. She had no education in the area. She had nothing, but she had a reason. She said, I'm not going to volunteer to be a victim. I'm going to change the way drinking and driving happens in the United States. And she did. Amber Alerts, named after a child named Amber. Somebody lost a child who was kidnapped and ended up dead. Horrible situation. And what did they decide? I'm going to create a system that works over everybody's systems, for every police officer, state trooper, FBI, phone, it doesn't matter, where we can send out an alert immediately and it comes across to everybody. So if somebody's child is in the situation that my child was in, that alert can go out and everybody can be on the lookout for that child. And I love this one because when they started out, think of how many people told them there was no way that was ever going to work. Everybody said that to them. From the various police departments to the phone companies to the everybody told them that wasn't going to work. Now we take it for granted. And we don't just use it for kids. We also now use it for anybody. Anybody that's in danger. You can see an elderly person that gets taken advantage of. You'll see the same type of Amber Alert that comes out. All because somebody made a decision that they were not going to volunteer to be a victim and instead changed it. Now, does that mean that they're not going to be happy about the situation that happened to them, but they can certainly look at what they created as a result of that tragedy and say, look at how many people now we're going to help. Look at how many lives we're going to save. So as you head into today, decide what it is you're going to do today. Decide how you're going to live your life. Are you going to live the rest of these days and enjoy them even if things aren't going perfectly? Or are you going to decide, I'm only going to enjoy when everything goes perfectly? It's entirely up to you. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. I really appreciate it. We're all in this together. Let's take care of each other.